I'm Sandra, and I'm just the professional your small business was looking for. But you didn't hire me because you didn't use LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn has professionals you can't find anywhere else, including those who aren't actively looking for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role, like me.
In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you'll miss out on great candidates like Sandra. Start hiring professionals like a professional. Post your free job on linkedin.com/spoken today.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Since 2013, Bombas has donated over 100 million socks, underwear, and T-shirts to those facing homelessness. If we counted those on air, this ad would last over 1,157 days. But if we counted the time it takes to make a donation possible, it would take just a few clicks. Because every time you make a purchase, Bombas donates an item to someone who needs it.
Go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/ACAST, code ACAST.
Hello, and welcome to Voices from the Battlefield, part of Waterloo Remembered. The next extract is read by Waterloo guide Dennis Abbott and comes from Edward Cotton.
My name is Dennis Abbott, and I live in Belgium, not far from Waterloo. I chose the preface to Sergeant Edward Cotton's book because he's a unique authority. He not only fought in the battle with the 7th Hussars, he later moved back to Belgium, lived on the site, and became a respected guide. I feel a sense of kinship with him, having also served, albeit in the 21st century, and am now training as a guide at Waterloo myself, so you could say that I'm following in his footsteps. His book is definitely worth a look. It's an authentic and readable account by a natural storyteller. A Voice from Waterloo, the personal experiences of a British cavalryman who became a battlefield guide and authority on the campaign of 1815 by Sergeant Major Edward Cotton. A Voice from Waterloo is the unassuming tale of an old soldier who was an eyewitness of and actor in many of the scenes he attempts to describe. His having resided more than 14 years on the field as guide and describer of the battle may be considered as the parent of the present memoirs. No one can be more convinced than I am of my inability to do justice to the subject, but I have had great advantages in communicating personally on the spot with Waterloo men of every nation, all of whom, from the general to the private, have evidently considered it at once a duty and a pleasure to assist an old companion in arms. The inquiries and comments made by those gallant men have afforded me opportunities of gleaning much information which no other person has obtained. This has enabled me to give a fuller and truer history of the battle than a more talented man could have done, unless he had enjoyed the same privilege. I have also read the whole of the numerous accounts of the military operations of 1815, which have been published in French, English, and German. General Yomini observes that a soldier writes well enough if he can make himself understood. To write on military operations requires a soldier's pen, as no other can properly treat of military matters. The reader will here find many new facts and meet with several interesting and pertinent documents that have never before appeared in the English language, given with an accuracy and detail which I regard as quite my own. One of my objects in writing is to correct opinions which have gone forth and which are greatly at variance with facts, opinions so erroneous as to warrant the remark of the highly talented general already referred to, that never was a battle so confusedly described as that of Waterloo. It is certain that the hour of many occurrences on the field has been erroneously stated, such as the arrival, or rather becoming engaged, of the different Prussian corps, the foil of La Haye-Sainte, defeat of the Imperial Guards, etc. Notwithstanding this, after the publication of so many accounts of the battle of the 18th of June, it may be fairly asked upon what grounds I expect to awaken fresh interest in a subject so long before the public. Can I reconcile the conflicting statements which have already appeared in print? Can I add to the information which most of my countrymen already possess concerning this memorable epoch? Or can I present that information in a compendious and lucid form, such as the general reader may still want? Something in all of these ways I hope I have accomplished. Putting aside some of the French and English accounts as not only irreconcilable with facts, but as self-refuted by their inconsistencies and mutual contradictions, using such of the French narratives as agree with those of their opponents, which, as Wellington observed of Napoleon's bulletins, may be safely relied upon as far as they tell against themselves, I have cleared up a great number of the points disputed by our own writers, who agree in the main but differ in some circumstances involving not merely questions of time and locality of certain events, but even the claims of individuals, regiments and brigades to the honour attached to their deeds on that day. By my long residence at Mont-Saint-Jean, constant study of the surface of the battlefield, knowledge of the composition and even dress of the different bodies of the French troops which stood before us, and my close attention to the remarks made by many a gallant comrade revisiting the spot, I have, in a great measure, succeeded in reconciling discrepancies which perhaps no other person could explain. I am also emboldened to think that my voice from Waterloo presents to the general reader all the leading facts of this eventful struggle in so concise a manner and at so moderate a cost as to secure it at preference over every other narration of the battle. I feel confident that this work will furnish the visitor to the field with a local guide not to be found in any description hitherto published. In the appendix to this work, number 7, are testimonials of my more than common acquaintance with the incidents of the battle, testimonials left in my hands by some of the most distinguished officers who took part in the fight. Other documents of similar import I am proud to possess and am ready to show to all who visit Waterloo. Although not strictly belonging to A Voice from Waterloo, I have added as a connecting link in this narrative an outline map and a sketch of the military operations of the campaign of 1815. Most anxious to avoid the imputation of having employed the materials of others without acknowledgement, I beg to state that besides the various military periodicals, I have made use of Captain Seaborne's History of the War in France and Belgium, The Military Life of the Duke of Wellington by Major Basil Jackson, and Captain R. Scott, The Wellington Dispatches and General Orders by Colonel Gurwood, Fall of Napoleon by Colonel Mitchell, Political and Military Life of Napoleon and the Art of War by General Khomeini, History of the King's German Legion by Major Beamish, Prussian History of the Campaign of 1815 by General Grollmann, etc. As to the manner in which I have executed my task, I know I am open to criticism. No doubt many of my remarks will be regarded as too digressive. Some persons will think I am too hard upon Napoleon. My authorities in this are more frequently French than English. Others will judge me too partial to the immortal Wellington. Be it so, for I confess that I think it impossible to estimate his services too highly as a soldier or as a statesman. Let no man contradict me until he has read the dispatches, etc., Is there another man on the records of history in whom we see such a combination of talent, patriotism, firmness and perseverance? Even Napoleon confessed of him what he said of no other man. In the management of an army, he is fully my equal, and in prudence my superior. General Bertrand attested this. Britons take a larger view and appreciate his varied qualifications much more highly. Waterloo was termed by Napoleon a concurrence of unexampled fatalities, a day not to be comprehended. Was there treason, or was there only misfortune? Wellington said he'd never before fought so hard a battle, nor won so great a victory. If the reader derived the same impression from his attention to a water from Waterloo, I shall be satisfied, because I shall have succeeded. Edward Cotton, Mont Saint-Jean, February 1840.
That was Waterloo guide Dennis Abbott reading from Edward Cotton. And you can follow Dennis on Twitter at Dennis Abbott. Stay tuned to the Napoleon Assist, where more instalments of the Voices from the Battlefield series will be released throughout the day.